Hey everybody, Jim from Jim's Coleus to Coleus. Wanted to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day. Just don't forget what the real meaning of Memorial Day is. It's really to honor those who served our armed forces and ultimate sacrifice, made the ultimate sacrifice. So, you know, when you go out to eat or you go to movies or you get to do this or that, speak your mind, post stuff against, if you're pro or against the president, for the president, whatever the politics, whatever your religious beliefs are, whatever, it's all because of those who fought for our freedom and continue to fight our freedom. So to those who served and passed on and their families, I salute you. I have my own personal loss from my uncle who served in the Philippines. God bless all the troops and those who perished serving for our country. So, all right, so here we are in a greenhouse, just checking things over. It's very raw, windy, raw day here on the Jersey Shore. Can't put them out. It's just too blustery. It's not really hot. It's about 78 degrees inside the greenhouse here. But I'm just going to go over some things with watering. I get a lot of questions with watering, how to water Coleus. How, you know, are you afraid of overwatering or underwatering? And that's why I use the Miracle Grow water mix, the water potting mix. But even that, sometimes you're really not sure. So I'm going to give you a few quick practical tips on helping you water your Coleus, or know when it needs or when it doesn't need water. See, they're really coming along well. It's a bit humid out today. It's kind of one of those weird days. I have a sweatshirt and sweats on, and it's a little chilly. The wind is chilly and humid, which makes it feel a little colder, obviously. So, but it's actually pretty good weather for the Coleus. There's a lot of moisture in the air. You can feel it, and you know, in my experience over the years, this is like the ideal weather for them. So they're really starting to, as I mentioned, if you're following along, they're really starting to kick in. It won't be long, folks. Another week and a half, you're going to really see you're going to start seeing less and less soil and more Coleus. So I'm going to get into the watering in a minute. We're just going to go and look and enjoy some of these beautiful colors. There's the Terrania, crimson gold, just going over a few just so you know. There's some of my Rosy Dawns. That's more of like an Empire Kong. That's a Kong Red. There's a Kong Red and a Jitters. It's almost like a Kingswood Torch and a Jitters. These are kind of neat. And you know, as these develop and get a little older, that red may get more intense. But these generally, they're in the Kong family. They will grow huge leaves. So these really make good container plants. They just grow mammoth leaves, mammoth foliage. Sort of in the Scarlet Kong family. Oh, and here's that fishnet. So again, I'm using a plastic stake, and I have these little tomato stabilizers. So we're gonna save this. It's still alive. Well, there we go. We're gonna lose a leaf here and there, but it really, being out in the wind, it just, because it's so leggy, I just didn't think. As opposed to this one, if I had left this one outside, it probably would have been damaged or dead because it's more delicate. So I'm keeping these in the greenhouse to get them to go, and this should come back fine. This is gonna be a giant plant by the end of the season, I suspect. So, and of course there's the Saturn rings, and look at the growth on this already. Not going to be long. These two a little slower. That center one's a little slower, but it's definitely growing. I remember putting that in and how small it was. So it's definitely growing. And of course these. So how do you know when it's time to water? All right, there's a few things to consider Number one is you want to use a good quality potting mixture. I use the moisture retention potting mixture from Miracle Grow, which has vermiculite and some other the vermiculites, which are like little foamy pellets that retain, and they retain moisture and they release moisture as the surrounding soil dries out. But how do you really tell? Now, smaller pots like this obviously are going to dry out a lot quicker, and especially if they're in the sun. It's not terribly hot today. There's definitely a windy breeze, so that could dry also. But get to know the weight when you water your pots and so forth. Get to know what a well-watered pot feels like, the weight. Like here, I could tell this is well-watered. I'm not even questioning. You can see it's a little dark. It's got a little drying going. Always skip a few days, folks, unless your pot is really light. Like, oh man, this one is light. It's like, whoa, wow, this one's light. This one needs water. Dig down an inch or so, and if it feels moist, then you're still good for a day. It's always best with Coleus, potted Coleus, to skip a day or so of water. If you're not sure, it would take a lot of neglect to kill your Coleus. So it's best to err on the side of caution when you consider watering, and skip a day or so. Again, relative to the pot, get to know the weight of your pot and go from there. And if you're not sure, then put a little water. If it feels dry but you're not sure, then give it a little bit of water. But it's always best to skip a day. Like today, I'm not going to water any of these. I might water one or two that I might have missed a day or two ago that are clearly dry. But everything here feels really good, looks good. Clearly that's moist. So skip a few days. And larger pots, obviously, or you can tell they may look dry on the top. Just dig down an inch or two. If it feels wet and looks moist, then you're good. Skip a day or so. So, you know, this one's pretty light. It's a little dry up top. So, it's not really light. So, I mean, I'm going to give it a little bit of water. But honestly, I don't see many of my Coleus in here today that need water. So, I'm just going to look over every one to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I think we're going to skip today. Again, even back here, here's a... See how sort of that looks dry? This is one of my Rosy Dawn. This is a Mexico gem. It feels lighter than, and it looks lighter and feels lighter than the others. So I might not have watered this one as much, but digging down, and it's that my fingers are moist. There's definitely moisture here. See, it looks like a little washed out on the bottom here. This is I'm gonna trim that. If you see that, like you can see a few leaves that maybe are starting to lighten, that's an indicator sometimes that maybe you've got too much water. But these are the original leaves, so I'm going to trim these with the scissors because we got this new growth coming in up top. It's got a lot of growth on the bottom. So at this point, I think what I'm going to do is trim this new growth up top here. I'm going to keep trimming this new growth up top and let this lower growth take these out. Let this bottom growth fill in more, and then the plant's going to actually grow taller. Also, the stem's going to grow, and it's going to grow from the top. But by continuing to trim the tops, it's going to divert that energy down below. So don't ever feel like you're going to hurt your Coleus by trimming. Trimming is how you do it. That's how you get your Coleus nice and full. So don't ever feel like you're going to hurt it or kill it, damage it. Trimming is the key. So we're going to skip water on this one too, and tomorrow we'll take a look at everything and see what it is. I'll give them a little bit of water. I don't want to skip more than a couple of days of water because they need water too to grow. All right, so pretty much everything here is good. So we're going to skip water, as I said. Here's those little hanging what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start moving these around a little bit. Put this one over here maybe. This one's been over here. I'll put this one over here. I like to move them around, give them a little change of scenery, give them a little change of light. I know this one's been here a few days, so put this one over here. It gives them a little change of aspect of light. Even though this one looks a little dry up top, I could feel it's moist down here. So it's best, again, I'm going to say it again, it's best to skip a day or two of water. All right, now yesterday I had everything out on the table, so I did rotate. They're back in the trays, Pat. I know you had mentioned, I had them up on cardboard earlier, as I mentioned. Let me zoom out here. I did have them out on cardboard, but now I'm that was that first couple of weeks where it was really warm. It was in the 80s, and it really did the Coleus good. They really grew. Look at that beautiful color. And there's a little one there. So I did pot a lot, not to get off the subject, but I did pot, and I have to run out. I don't think I'm going to do it today. It's Memorial Day. I'm going to have to give it a rest, but I need to get some more potting mixture. We'll do it tomorrow. But I did put them back in trays because it's easier for me to move them out, in and out on tables to create my pots than doing them one at a time. And I like to put them out on a table to survey them all, and that's how I, again, if you follow along, is how I kind of design my pots, because I got everything out front, outside, and watered well and so forth. Get them out, harden them off, so when people buy them, they'll be ready to go outside. Another thing, if I don't have any coming in right now, but Coleus in general will go to seed later, and that's really signaling that it's the end of its life. But because in the wild, that's how they're perennials, but in the wild, that's how they regenerate themselves, by going to seed. The seeds dry out, they drop back on the soil, and the plant regrows. Birds pick them up, eat them, poop them out, and transport them somewhere else, and so forth. That's basically nature. But anyway, if you see any of your Coleus going to seed early, just same thing as trimming, just snip that seed pod from coming in. It's way too early for seeds. We don't need seeds at this point, so snip them, because there are some, I've had it happen all the time, where they go to seed early. That's a beautiful crimson gold. And yet yesterday, I believe, before I went to work, I turned some of these around. So we're going to turn them around, and they'll move within a day. They'll actually turn towards the sun, within a day. So hope these come out pretty well for you guys. And here is a nice, that's going to really be a fabulous, already is, fabulous Coleus. So nice color. And that is a colossal marble. Never any rest around here. There's always people doing yard work, so I'm not going to complain. People keep their homes nice here. It doesn't make sense to not to. Okay, so yeah, it's nice in here. It's pretty warm, 78, as I mentioned earlier. God bless our troops. Just a little side note as we get into the season. If you have insects, I'm very lucky. I don't get any insect problems in here, but this is really good. I mean, there are home remedies you can make with dish soap for insects that will attack your Coleus, but I use this stuff. It's a safer brand. You can get it on Amazon. You can find it in most Lowe's and Home Depots. So it's a safer insect soap. Actually, this is from last year. I need to get another one. I may try to mix up a natural one with Dawn. I have to go out and get some soap anyway, so maybe I'll give that a try. I know my my mentor Brooklyn had given me a little concoction to put together, and it said save the $9 and you can make it up at home. So maybe we'll give that a try. I'll save this and make my own up. So, but this is good stuff. It's pungent. If you're going to spray it on your plants, make sure you have well ventilated. Don't breathe it right in. It's not toxic, but it's pungent. And what it does is it breaks down the membrane on these insects, the hard shell, and that's what kills them. So you spray a little on the soil, under and on top of the foliage, because that's where the little critters like to hang out. So just a little side note for the upcoming insect season. Okay, and there's the hanging basket. Now I ordered, I'd mentioned I had ordered 10 more of these 8-inch hanging baskets, and hanging baskets are a lot of fun to make. I enjoy them. They're not a big seller, but they do end up going by the end of the season. I may end up with 1 or 2 left over, which is not a big deal. That's what this one's left over from last year. I don't know why that is, but I like making them. So I just bought 10 hanging baskets. I think I got green this year, to switch it up a little bit. So I enjoy making them up. So I'll be making up, I'm not going to make all 10 up. I have 2 here. I'll probably make maybe 4 and see how that goes. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm just trying to decide maybe, you know, what I should put in the hanging baskets. I know jitters are big. I always put jitters in because they hang over. Sometimes I sit for a few minutes looking and grabbing a pot, and I bring them over and I'm like, nah, let me do this one. You know, I could burn 20 minutes trying to decide what kind of pot we're making. So it's fun, but sometimes I put a little too much thought into it. So look at all that beautiful color. So I'm just pushing for the color this year, folks. So you know, when I say I'm going to put in hanging baskets, I'm going to use up all my colored stuff as much as I want to get everything really bright, because that's what people love. So and by the end I'll have a lot of the scarlets left over and so forth, but we'll see what happens. I'll post a quick video when I start making up hanging baskets, because like I said, they're a lot of fun. Okay, folks, so again, happy Memorial Day. God bless our troops. They're serving now, and those have lost their lives. Happy Memorial Day. Enjoy your families and your freedom. So thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned. Lots and lots of more Coleus fun to come. Enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. Take care, and thanks for watching.